you're watching this video, it's probably because you've read the book Soul Fraud. If you haven't read the book, you might not want to watch this video because we're going to be spoiling the crap out of it. Hello, my name is Andrew Givler. I am an author. I wrote the book Soul Fraud. I'm also a YouTuber and booktuber. And today, I'm going to be answering a whole bunch of your questions about Soul Fraud. Now, if you haven't read Soul Fraud, like I said, it'll be linked in the description below. You can go grab it. The other books in the series are coming soon. There'll be more info about them shortly. But this is going to be a tell-all author expose on Soul Fraud, everything that was going on, everything you want to know, and we're going to get into it. But before we do, if you guys are new around the channel, make sure to hit the subscribe button. I post other videos talking about writing, reading, other books I enjoy, doing reviews, all kinds of cool stuff, writing challenges with my other friends. Make sure to grab it. Also, hit the like button so YouTube knows you liked the video, okay? And we'll get to work. Now, we have a little bit of a format that we're going to go through today. The first thing is I've prepared a bunch of general questions that I've just gotten en masse since the book came out, either on Twitter or from personal friends, people who I've talked to at conventions, you name it. So I know there's some general questions that I just figured I'd get out of the way. And then I had an opportunity for viewers of the channel to submit questions, and I will do so again when I do a coverage video for Book 2, Dandelion Audit, once it's out. So first, we'll start with the general questions. One of the most common general questions I get is, how old is Orion? Great question. I don't think that I know. I mean, that's not true. I don't think anybody knows. I think Orion is actually probably one of the oldest living constellations, with a few exceptions. But the myth of Orion, at least in our understanding of it, predates back to like the caves. They found drawings of Orion on the caves. A lot of the other constellations tend to come from Greek and Roman myth. So compared to most of the other constellations, he's actually like one of the longest tenured ones out there. So he's very old. Like, he predates them having a date, I think. So giving him an exact date range would be far, but he is old. This is my favorite question, and I get a bunch of these, which is, who would win in a fight, Orion or X? And the most common one is Achilles. First of all, anyone who's ever asked me that question, big props, love it. Second of all, I think that is really hard to say. Now, first of all, I'm going to assume in this fight that Orion does not have the magic immortal killing sword, because if so, it changes the answer real quick. So assuming he doesn't have the sword, I think Achilles is actually technically more demon than Orion, right? So if Nephilim, like, strength and power is somewhat dictated to how much of their demon heritage they still have, Achilles is a much more souped up version than even Orion. He's like right on the border of 50-50. You know, and he's literally invincible from head to toe. So that gives him a huge advantage. I think that likely it would end up in a very similar to Hector type situation. I think that Orion probably could match him in terms of martial skill. But I think that the immortality or the invincibility that Achilles had would probably give him the edge. If Orion did manage to take him down, it would be kind of a mutual destruction sort of thing. I would expect Achilles to have the upper hand. Speaking of the immortal killing sword, what is the immortal killing sword of Orion? Where did he get it? And what makes it kill immortals? I can't tell you that. I mean, I will tell you that eventually. I can't tell you that right now. I do know a lot of you might be right, or you might not be right, but I can't answer that one. That will have more things shed on it, though, as we go, as we learn more about Orion, about his history, about other things. There's stuff. You'll be fine. Now, the question is about the Minotaur. Is that the Minotaur from myth and legend? Is that the one from the maze? No, it is not. It is one of the other famous Minotaurs, though. I forget. I actually forget where the one that was in there comes from. It's a lesser one. The one that was on Minos, and actually like in the labyrinth, his name was Asterius or Styrion. Different guy. We may or may not see him later. I haven't decided. Speaking of the Minotaur, what's the deal with Matt's hands catching on fire? You didn't really address it. You let it go. True, I did. I did let it go. I promise we will talk about it more in Dandelion Audit, and that's all I will say. And that's all I will say. Whew. You guys are asking some secrets I cannot divulge. You know, I gotta keep some things. I gotta keep some things behind the curtain. Okay. Will we see other constellations? Yes, you will see many. Orion is not the only one. Obviously, you've seen Cassiopeia. There will be more. Next question. What's the deal with the man at the bar, dude? The grumpy old dude at the bar who kind of like picks a fight. Who? I don't know what you guys are talking about. Nothing to see there. Nothing at all. What's the name of the next book? The next book is called Dandelion Audit. I have talked about this in depth in another video on my channel if you guys haven't seen that. Talking about all the books that I'm hoping to come out this year, give a little like, not synopsis, but like name and kind of thing we're going with. I've announced that Dandelion Audit will be coming out next. As the name implies, we will be dealing with the fairies a little bit. Book 3 is currently called The Celestial Convention, but that's a working title. And book 4 is going to be called Death Tax. So those are the next 4. Speaking of the next 4 books, how many books are there going to be in the series? I don't know yet. So I know the big picture. I know how it ends. I've written the final line, I think, actually, of the book. Not the rest of it, but the final line. But there's going to be some steps along the way that I don't quite know how long we're going to take. And we're going to take as long as we need to solve them, because I want to have the space to make a great story and have it be a lot of fun. I don't want to drag on parts just because I promised a certain number of books. And I don't want to have to be like, sorry guys, I'm adding another book. I'm going to try to do what's best for the series the whole way through. And my original goal was to do 10 books, 1 for each year of the debt. I don't think that quite makes sense anymore, but we'll see what happens. Now for some questions from you guys. 12pounds89 said, what gave you the inspiration for the fight at the research facility? Sorry, I don't remember the name. The Lazarus one. Yeah, I think it was the Gilead lab, right? That sounds right. No, not Gilead. Lancelot, I think. Specifically the part with the Minotaur and Matt getting fire powers. That also was a holdover from the first novel I wrote, which wasn't very good. But my favorite scene in it is I also had Hell be like very corporate in that. The main character in that book, I think his name was Bruce. I don't remember. I wrote that book like almost a decade ago. He ends up like trapped in this like corporate world between worlds, which is where Hell has its, what is it called? Like call center. And so it is a never ending maze of cubicles. And so it felt like he was trapped in the same maze that was under Minos that Theseus fought. And so that's what gave me the idea. And at one point, I think in my original story, he took like the old like curly phones, like the phones with like the cords, and he strung all the cords together to make a string to like help him find his way through the maze, just like Theseus did. And that's what gave me the idea. And so there was like a guy who worked for Hell who was kind of like a Minotaur who chased him through. I think I made like a demon or something kind of Minotaur-y. And that's where I had the idea. And I always wanted to use it in a story where somebody actually read it. So that's where I came from. Another question, what happened to Megan after being kidnapped but before being given to the research people? Basically, what put her in the coma that she is now? Lilith. We will go more in depth with some of that. Don't worry, we will handle more of it. But remember that she got kidnapped and she got put through Lilith's hands to get to Lazarus. So that is where that occurred. How would you rate your connection to each of the main characters? Matt, Violet, Alex, Connor, anyone else? How similar are you? How good of friends would you be? I think Matt and I would either be friends or rivals because we have similar senses of humor. So I think we might resent each other for stealing each other's jokes. I think Alex is definitely like the type of guy that I usually have as a very close friend, where like they're really stoic, they're really reliable, but they also just, man, they can't let anything go without just like a little bit of sass. Definitely all the characters have like little bits and pieces pulled from people I know, but not like, like this is this person kind of thing. It's more of a like, this is how it is. I have to keep going with the fourth. What inspired your character's name, mannerisms, actions, and gave you the basis for the characters? You know what's weird is I always really hated when authors gave this answer, but the characters kind of found themselves. Like the way that I structure my characters a lot is I keep a list of their goals. Like this is what I know this character is like driven by and what they want to accomplish and who they want to be. And then a lot of it comes out of that, like how they respond to things, whoever. I can tell when the note is wrong. And so I just try things until I find the one that's right. And in a lot of ways, I discover them as I go. Alarmed Conch said, what made you think of the idea of a demon scamming someone out of their heart and committing soul fraud? I actually got this idea because I used to work a corporate job. I worked in sales. Believe it or not, I was a sales guy. I wasn't very good at it, but I worked in sales, and somebody did this. So one day, like, we came in, we had this big meeting, and it was a big corporate job. I have no idea who did this. Like, somebody in another branch in another, like, city had worked with a bunch of high-end clients and forged their signatures for, like, a bunch of subscriptions, just assuming they would never notice, and tried to, take hundreds of thousands of dollars. They got caught. They got busted, but they had to do like a big thing, like condemning it and making sure not all of us knew it wasn't okay, obviously, whatever. But like in that meeting, because I have ADHD, I was like, whoa, that'd be crazy if like that happened in fantasy. Like what would happen if a demon tried to do that, but you didn't sign the contract, and then boop, off we went. That's where the idea comes from. Next question is from Super Mega 242. He said, I have a question. If you could write Soul Fraud again, what would you do differently? I don't know that I would do a lot differently. I think my biggest complaints with Soul Fraud so far are I think that I've become a better writer just by writing more, right? Like, but the thing about writing a book when you're earlier in your career is you're a better writer at the end than you are at the beginning. I think there's a very noticeable moment where the writing gets better. And that bothers me, but it's really hard to go back and just rewrite a book, you know? I did what I could to try to like make it flow, and I'm still proud of the whole thing, but I definitely think the second half of the book's better than the first half. I also think I would redo a couple little things for pacing. I think sometimes he was at home too long, sometimes other things, but overall, I'm pretty happy with it. Short Glass wants to know, what were some difficulties you had while writing? Were there sometimes you felt that your book wouldn't turn out well and you wanted to give up? I think the biggest difficulty that I encountered is actually, I wrote Soul Fraud over a period of about 5 years, but I actually only spent maybe about a year working on it. I started writing Soul Fraud when I was in my mid-20s before I moved to LA. And I worked on it every day. And I wrote all the way up to the scene where they go to meet Lazarus in the parking lot. And I didn't know what to do there. So here's the thing I will admit. I didn't realize that Lilith had betrayed them until I wrote that scene, right? I was doing what all the characters seemed like they should be doing, and I knew that something was wrong, but I couldn't put my finger on it. And I got to that scene, and I didn't know what to do. And then I moved to LA, I got really busy, my YouTube channel took off, and I put the book aside because I was stuck and I didn't know how to get through it. Basically, during the pandemic, it was like my birthday, and I was having like a little existential crisis, and I was like, I always wanted to be a writer. Why have I not finished my book? So I sat down and I figured it out, and then like the light bulb just turned on and was like, whoa, you idiot, Lilith is lying because she's a demon and that's what they do. And I was like, that makes a lot of sense. Then from there, it was really easy. I finished the rest of the book in like a month. But yeah, when I was stuck there, I was not sure how to get out of it. And I was really worried that I'd written myself into a corner that there was no saving from. There you go. That's a secret. My good buddy Seth Ring, who is another author who you guys should check out. He writes the Battle Mage series. He's been on this channel. He's great. I'll try to remember to link him in the description below, but he's been in videos on this channel. You can find him. He said, if you could pick an author to finish the Debt Collection series, who would it be? Seth, I'd choose you. I would choose you. No, that's actually a really hard decision. I mean, obviously with urban fantasy, you want to say like Jim Butcher, right? Like that's like the like go-to like, whoa. But I think I would be scared of Jim finishing it because he'd finish it better than I could. And so then I would feel bad. So man, an author that I would love to see finish, I would love to see Pratchett do it. Because I think Matt has a sense of humor where he tries a little too hard sometimes. And Pratchett's so effortlessly funny. I think it would be really cool to see what he would do with something like that. That's like not quite as irreverent as what Pratchett wrote, but still has its really irreverent moments. Like my goal with my book is to have moments that are as funny as Pratchett, but be as serious as Dresden, right? Like I'm trying to balance those two things. And so I think both of them would do a better job at it than I would, but I hope to learn. You know what? Stephen King. I choose Stephen King. Candy Soda said, which character do you feel the most inspired to make? Orion. I have written a couple books before this book that either I didn't finish because I knew they weren't good, or I think I finished one full one, but I didn't like it. But I had used Orion as an idea a couple different times. I've always just thought it was so cool, right? The idea of constellations and like heroes being in the sky. Like why were they chosen to be up there? And what kind of people would they be like? The idea of Nephilim and Orion, I had already written a book using just the rest of the book I threw away, and I rewrote it as this. And I've always wanted to bring Orion to life as like a modern day hunter. So that was definitely the character I was most excited about. And he is so much fun to do. Like his personality, he's not the most personable, but I super geek out about the mythology. I give this one a ton. So you get like these were 3 in a row, like in one shot. But Joseph Krawick, classical music nerd Ricky, and the King, hail to the King, all want to know, how do I have time to be a YouTuber, booktuber, and deal with everyday life, and then also write books, right? In some sort of thing. The answer is not well, which was not the question. But basically, here's what a day in the life of Andrew /Sigil /GivReads looks like. I wake up in the morning. I feel like P. Diddy. Okay, check. Pretty much. Within an hour of getting up, I drink some coffee, I'm at the computer, I start filming YouTube videos. Depending on the day, that goes from like 10 a.m. till about 6 p.m. Sometimes it goes longer. Then when I'm done, I usually take like a little break. I'm trying to go to the gym or like do some more healthy stuff. I'm getting into that habit. I sort of lost it for a little bit. And then I eat dinner. I maybe like watch a TV show. And then after dinner, I write. And I try to write for like 2 hours, which is where I can write maybe about 2,000 words a day is my goal. And then I go to sleep and I do it again. And I do that like 6 days a week. And then I usually take like Sundays off. I don't make any videos on Sunday, but I usually still like write like in the evening, like after a day of like hopefully relaxing. But sometimes that doesn't happen. You got things you got to do. It's a busy life, but I get bored really easily. So, and I love what I do. So I'm really grateful to have the opportunity to work this hard. Wolf Slade said, is being an author something you always wanted / planned for several years, or just start to become a hobby over time? Yeah, I wanted to be an author when I was a kid. Being a YouTuber was the thing that happened on accident. When I was a kid, being a YouTuber wasn't a thing, but I loved reading. I think the first time I read a book that had an ending I didn't like, I got indignant and wanted to write my own. And ever since then, that was my plan. And then YouTube came out, I fell in love with it. I learned to love performing and making jokes and doing that kind of stuff. And I had a career as a YouTuber, and I forgot all about being an author. And so this is me sort of going back to my childhood dream and trying to use my YouTube platform to help make it come true. But yeah, no, this has always been the plan. Who's your favorite non-human character to create, such as Dan the Demon? What gave you inspiration for that? A friend, a TV show? That's from Gabby Bertucci. Dan the Demon's probably up there. He's really fun. I like Dan the Demon because I see myself in Dan the Demon. I was a really bad salesman when I was a salesman, and I remember that feeling of like not being in your quota and being under pressure and knowing you're gonna lose your job and just like desperately just being like, please buy my thing, please. He is fun, and he's also fun because he's kind of bumbling and stuff just goes wrong when he does it. So Dan was definitely a lot of fun. Lilith was also a ton of fun because I think she was terrifying, and she was smart and she was dangerous, and that was a lot of fun too. Some of my favorite non-human characters are going to show up in Dandelion Audit, so keep your eyes open for that. Well, hopefully this answered some of your questions. If you guys still have burning questions that you need answered before Dandelion Audit comes out, leave a comment down below. All right, I'll review these. If we get enough, I'll do a part 2. In the meantime, if you haven't grabbed the book, the link's in the description below. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do that. We're trying to grow this, build it up. I'll keep talking about books I like, other things, dropping leaks, information about the stories. Hit the like button, and I'll see you guys in the next one.